Saitama does not fit into the world of One Punch Man. He is too big a fish in too small a pond. And that is the series' greatest strength early on, it's what gets people hooked, it's the whole point. The story is that of a guy who is just too strong. It's fun, it's entertaining, it can even be tragic, and that's why very often we see Saitama being used as an example of an overpowered character done right. And I do agree, Saitama is awesome. Early on. This is a video I've wanted to make for a while now, and it specifically talks about Saitama's character and his relationship to the world of One Punch Man, as well as the plot of the series as a whole. And specifically, I want to express my issues with Saitama, as despite being called an OP character done superbly well, I feel like that claim is mostly based on the first season of the anime, and I definitely agree that is the case there. But what about the rest of the story? That is what I would like to take a look at today. I called Saitama a problem character in the title because of one reason. A character such as this is extremely difficult to write. Any plotline, any interesting character development, any villain, event, stakes can all be ended in a single punch from this man. He can gobble up any plotline and end any tension by just being who he is. So, comedic approach aside, we'll touch up on that later. What do you do with a character like that to keep the story interesting? Well, there are two routes that you could possibly take. One, you have the conflict for him be non-physical. Have him struggle mentally, fighting his own lack of humanity, finding purpose in life, something, anything. Two, you get him away from the important action until everything is wrapped up and you just need this overpowered character to finish the battle. This can be used to great effect to build tension, think of Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen or All Might from My Hero Academia. However, if used too much, it can become a tiresome trope. Especially when this overpowered character is your main character and you sideline him to the point that he barely even appears on screen anymore. Wink wink, nudge nudge. When it comes to option 1, Saitama does show traits of that inner conflict multiple times. Season 1 handled his character perfectly. We had tons of comedy with him, but we also got masterful scenes like Saitama's battle with Boros, where he walks away unsatisfied and empty after helping a dark mirror of himself live out his dream and feeling very little in the process. He saves everyone except himself. It is honestly awesome all throughout Season 1, and this Boros moment, by the way, is I think what finally broke Saitama's hopes and dreams in a sense. Before this fight, he was still getting excited at the thought of fighting monsters like Carnage Kabuto, but with Boros, this guy who supposedly is the strongest in the universe, failing to give him a challenge, who else is there left really? That might be why we see Saitama's mentality change from still being hopeful about finding a worthy opponent to being the way he is in the Monster Association arc, completely devoid of any enthusiasm. It's a cool and interesting development. Saitama went from having some shred of hope to being completely and utterly consumed by boredom. So now that this character has hit his lowest point ever in terms of his mental state, we would expect him to slowly start climbing back up, or maybe even spiral even further. There are several interesting routes Saitama's character could go, and they lead to some very different outcomes. So how does the story progress him from there? In Season 2, he checks out martial arts and realizes he didn't gain anything from it either, and he goes on this monologue explaining his lack of humanity and how it's getting to him. King suggests that he needs to improve mentally and not just physically, and it really seems like we'll be getting some development. And it's immediately turned into a joke and never touched upon again. This series, for whatever reason, seems deathly allergic to giving Saitama any development past Season 1. It's like they're actively trying to keep him from evolving as a character. And this is where we're going to get into manga spoilers, by the way, so if you're scared of that, please click off now. We had Cosmic Goro. We had the entire cast die because Saitama was late and didn't care to register the threat he was facing. In a sense, his negligence was what got everyone killed. You'd think this could be a catalyst for a character arc, but instead, Saitama just forgets it ever happened. Any moment with Saitama's tragedy, any glimpse at his inner suffering, gets overshadowed by comedy immediately after, over and over again. And I get it, this is a comedic series, But the joke of this guy beats everybody in one punch will eventually get old as it becomes the norm. For different people, it will come at different times, but if the gag becomes the standard for too long, it will eventually get stale. It becomes the status quo. We expect it, it's not funny or surprising anymore. The series needs development, it needs new things to keep it interesting, and if the authors aren't willing to develop the main character, then they have to introduce interesting side characters, develop the world, create unique villains, and One Punch Man excels at that, no doubt. It's one of the many reasons that I love the series so much. But that's when that phrase from the beginning of the video comes into the fray. Saitama does not belong in this world. If he is around, then any interesting character arcs, any conflict, stakes, or consequences all get trampled because this one guy can punch really hard. So what do the authors do to prevent that? They take option 2, keep him away from the plot. During Season 2, and especially the entire Monster Association raid arc, Saitama is mostly in the background, with all the interesting developments happening around him, in spite of his existence. He does things here and there. In Season 2 he takes out a couple of the big bads and inspires Suiryu, but then throughout the entire Monster Association raid, he is mostly just goofing around, having barely any influence. Let's go through some of the things he accomplishes in this section of the story. Saitama defeats the Monster King. Beating Orochi is really not that significant if you think about it. What would change if Orochi just came to fight Tatsumaki as Psychos called him to do so? Him and Psychos get dunked on and fuse to fight back. Boom. Nothing has changed in the grand scheme of things, aside from Orochi's backstory maybe not being revealed, but he could have easily done the same exposition to Tatsumaki as he did to Saitama. If anything, Saitama killing Orochi just made us miss out on a bunch of cool fights that Orochi might have otherwise been able to participate in. Saitama discovers the God Cube. This scene is important, it does introduce Blast, but Saitama literally does not need to be there. He has zero influence over that entire scene. Just have Flashy Flash discovered by himself and nothing changes. The Phoenix Man fight loses any and all tension the moment Saitama shows up, basically deflating the entire thing and making whatever happens next have no actual impact, so that's a negative if anything. Some may argue Saitama saved Tatsumaki indirectly that one time, and yeah, that's true, but what would have happened without this? King calls Tatsumaki moments later, telling her he rescued the hostage. She goes, "Oh, nice, thank you, King," stops holding back, breaks free, and things proceed as normal. Saitama defeats Evil Ocean Water, and that is cool, but literally just have Garo go 2v1 on Sage Centipede and Evil Ocean Water, that would have been a way cooler fight than what we ultimately got. And we did get that one heartfelt moment with Geno, so that is good, but sadly it gets pretty overshadowed by how lax Saitama is towards him later on in the story. Saitama could be removed from this entire arc before his big showdown with Garo, and you really only need to rewrite the story a tiny little bit, and nothing changes. Really, the only significant influence Saitama has had over the course of literally damn near 100 chapters is some gag moments, ruining a cool fight, robbing us of a bunch of interesting characters, punching Rover, and defeating Garo at the end of the arc. That is insane for the main character the show is named after. And it again goes back to that point of Saitama just not fitting into this world. He is way too big a fish in way too small a pond. That is the greatest strength of the series early on, but it is also its biggest weakness when the story gets going. Because eventually, if you refuse to develop this character in any way whatsoever, aside from making him more bored I guess, you end up with nothing but a convenient plot device to punch away the problem once it gets too big for the regular cast to handle. It is not funny after the 100th time, it is not special. If anything, I'd be more invested in the story if I didn't know we have Deus Ex Machina standing on the side ready to end the conflict whenever the authors let him do so. And I get it, the story doesn't take itself so seriously, it's a comedy, a parody. But is it really though? The events of the Monster Association arc take themselves pretty seriously 90% of the time when Saitama isn't on screen. The Deep Sea King, Boros, the Attack of the Monsters in Season 2, the entire raid arc. It takes itself pretty seriously for the most part, and some of the best moments in the series are serious ones. And if the series wants to go in that direction, then maybe it's a bad thing that whenever something new and interesting happens, one of my first thoughts is, oh man, I sure hope the main character doesn't show up and ruin this good thing right now. When that is happening, I feel like there might be a problem. Like legit, remove Saitama from the picture and let's look at all the narrative benefits that would have brought to the Monster Association arc. The stakes are instantly way higher. We have Goketsu and Elder Centipede, two really cool and interesting monsters present and ready to fight our heroes. We could have gotten Bang vs Goketsu, which would have been awesome. We could have had several S-Class team up to take out Elder Centipede, or heck, perhaps maybe have Garo fight him instead of Clown Centipede. We could have had Orochi actually do something instead of getting instantly wrecked. We could have had Evil Ocean Water versus Garo and maybe have Garo chop him in half and Sage Centipede, whatever, you know. We could have had so many cool and interesting things. Saitama just robbed us of several characters with a lot of potential, and in exchange we got, what, a couple cool moments? Some quote-unquote funny gags? We would definitely lose a bit of heart, and then maybe a couple of the scenes with him in the arc are kinda funny or like kind of interesting. But really the only true negative I see is that the final Garo fight would have had to be way different, obviously, if Saitama wasn't there. One other thing that could be argued is that Saitama is a stagnant character who affects the world and the people around him. It's not the point for him to develop, it is for his existence to help develop other characters, similar to Goku or Luffy. But first of all, I can't speak for Luffy because I haven't read One Piece yet, but Goku definitely develops over the course of the hundreds of chapters we see him in. Even these characters that are meant to be stagnant often do change over time in subtle but noticeable ways, and that helps keep them interesting. Not Saitama though. And let's see who this developing other characters effect affects. Genos, of course, though he really doesn't learn a single thing from Saitama for the most part, to the point that that's really the joke of their entire relationship. Suiryu, okay, a side character who might do something in the future, but it hasn't done anything in over 100 chapters now. Sonic? Genis, I guess? Tatsumaki in recent times? And Garo, before he literally forgot most of it. So, if Saitama isn't given any development, isn't giving much development to others, is constantly getting sidelined while the interesting stuff happens, his joke hasn't changed in over a decade, and I actively hope to not see him on screen whenever something interesting is happening, what is there for this character? Genuinely, why should I like Saitama? Cool factor? Maybe, I guess, but I'd much rather watch Drive Knight or Zombie Man or Garo doing cool stuff than this cardboard cutout. Funny moments? I really can't think of the last time his tired joke of I don't care or One Punch made me laugh. Heart? He does have heart. In like 2 scenes in the last 100 chapters? Like, come on. Maybe it's just me, it probably is just me considering how many fans Saitama has, but honestly, the more I think about Saitama, the less I like him. In Season 1, he is fantastic, still to this day, he holds up super well. But past that, I genuinely couldn't think of a single notable reason to enjoy his screen time besides just I want to see how strong this guy really is. Because he's not given anything. So yeah, sorry for this ranty video. This is the last one, I promise, at least for a while. I've only made 2 of these and I don't intend to make any more because frankly, I've already expressed most, if not all, my grievances with the series for the most part. I do really want to make a video on why I enjoy One Punch Man or what I like about it, but the thing is, it is much more difficult to do that kind of video instead of this one because I can't just list out every single thing that I like about the series, like I can with things I dislike, because if I did that then we'd just be sitting here for hours as I give you a recap of the story, and nobody really wants that, I imagine. The way I'm thinking of going about it now is I'll try to pick out smaller details that you may not have noticed in the story that I adore or find interesting, but we'll see how it turns out. I also did at one point try to write a script that would be somewhere along the lines of everything great about or overanalyzing that several other YouTubers are doing with other series, and I wrote nearly 1,000 words on just the first chapter cover and the chapter itself, but that would be an immensely long project, so let me know if you would like to see something like that come into fruition someday. Let me know in the comments how you feel about Saitama, if it's just me or if you feel something similar. And everything I've said here at the end of the day is subjective. Obviously, you can still enjoy Saitama as a character for your own reasons. Maybe you see something I don't, maybe you generally just enjoy him for the vibes. There are plenty of valid reasons to still like him. I just can't really find one for me personally, but if you still enjoy him, that's totally fine. Everybody has their own tastes, and I will accept it, of course. But just for me personally, these are the issues that I have with the character. And with nothing else to say, I wish you a great rest of the day. Goodbye.